Hello, everyone, and welcome to the pre-show for the Coffee and Real Estate Live Chat for May of 2026. We've got some interesting numbers that we're going to cover. We're going to kick all that off at 10 a.m., but as I mentioned, this is the pre-show. This is where I make sure everything's working.
Hello, everyone.
And look at that.
And welcome to the pre-show.
Let me just see where's that coming from. All right, so YouTube's working. Let's see what's going on here. There we go. It looks like LinkedIn is finally working. LinkedIn's always been difficult.
Hello, everyone.
There we go. LinkedIn's working. It's a little more delayed than everyone else, which is weird. So I hope everyone had a good month. Good. Everybody's up and running. Excellent. I hope everyone's had a good month since the last time we spoke. It's been a and then one other thing I'd like to, I know I did this last time, but just thanks to everyone who's sent me all their condolences and good wishes and well wishes after my father passed away. Right now it's really about focusing on my mom. A funny story, I guess. So she's actually right now in the hospital, which isn't great, right? But she was trying to get back into being active and being social and all those kinds of wonderful things, and she was doing a swimming thing. And when she was done, she had some sort of really crazy infection swelling thing happening on her foot. But I had been visiting just prior to that. So anyway, I don't know where I was going to go with that story. But so she is still in the hospital on IV antibiotics, but she's doing very well. My sisters are both there. I guess it's a faux pas to say how old she is, but she's creeping up on. She's in her 90s. It's creeping up on the big 100. And I was over helping her out. Her printer she was having trouble printing, and so there were things I wanted to help her accomplish, and just so she could keep doing the things that she does. And she was telling me what she was trying to print out. She was trying to print out stuff from her bank. My sisters and I only recently got her, and less me. I was less influential than my sisters in getting her to go online with her banking. And she was printing out a month of transactions and then balancing her checkbook. And so I said, well, do you not want it? And she was doing it off of a printed page. And I said, well, do you not want to do this in a spreadsheet? She saw a what? So, and you had that deer in the headlights moment of what is a spreadsheet, and my brain starts churning. And do I need to teach my 90-something-year-old mother about spreadsheets, or is she good as she is? And we came down on she was good as she is. That's really weird. I look super fuzzy. At least in the stream, I look fuzzy. Why is that? I did tweak some stuff. So I don't know if I have completely screwed that up. But boy, do I look weird. And I don't really want to screw with anything because I don't want to crash or do anything crazy. But I look. But what's fun? Yeah, and I look fuzzy on the other things too. Well, hopefully that won't negatively affect the data. Now, if anybody has any questions, please do. Let's see here. Please do feel free to comment in the chat. I am keeping an eye on that stuff. Let's see. Is it just a focus thing? It focuses on my hand just fine, and I come back, and then it seems to have trouble focusing. Hello? Is it just a focusing problem? What's going on? Let me, it wasn't doing this before in all the setup. Let me just do this. That seems better. That was weird. Okay. I guess we're good. All right. So let me, I can pause this. I don't want to screw up my throughput here. All the rates, the frame rates and everything still look good. Okay, so we're about 10 minutes away from kicking off the show for reals. But if you've got any questions you'd like to ask, talk about anything that's going on with the markets. Oh, okay, so here's something. So there are a few of you, and I love you, and I appreciate you. Thank you for being enthusiastic about the podcast and me posting more podcast stuff. I have a podcast all recorded. It just needs to be edited, and then it's ready to go. And yes, I apologize. It has been ready. It has been recorded for over a month. Okay. Facebook just did a weird thing. Not sure what that is. Wow. It is jumping all over the place on Facebook. Lots of time traveling going on Facebook. Anyway, it's all set. And it is about getting out of California and doing it in such a way that the state can't squeeze more money out of you, right? It's the steps you need to go through, the steps you need to take to document when you change your residency so that the state of California doesn't come back and say, you owe us money for this year that you didn't live here. With past clients, I've been seeing people who moved away as much as 7 or 8 years ago. Suddenly, the state comes chasing them for more money. I just got an email from someone. I guess I mentioned this last month, and they saw one of the shorts from that live stream about this and reached out to me. And they're apparently getting chased, but their story is a little weirder. They're getting asked for additional taxes, but they haven't actually really coded it out of the state. So I don't know. I'm going to give them a call back and see how we can give them some clarity. But the bottom line is it's happening. It's happening a lot. And there was a news item about a big exodus that's happened in the beginning of 2026 that's costing the state trillions in terms of income of people who are leaving the state. And so I thought that was a very timely thing. So it will. I promise it's coming. I'm not going to promise a specific date. Things have been crazy, and to be honest, not so much from a real estate standpoint, but just from a family standpoint. And so I've been trying to manage that kind of stuff. So be patient with me. I appreciate it. I apologize for the delays. And again, like I said, I sat down and recorded it. I think I recorded it. It may even be 2 months ago. I know I had it recorded by the time we did the Coffee and Real Estate live stream last month. So it may have been a couple of weeks before that I recorded it. And I had on my calendar set up times to sit down and edit it. But other things intruded, whether it was mom's printer's not working, or mom's car has stopped working, or mom's new little battery-powered golf cart thing she wants to use to get around doesn't have enough room for her walker, and fixing those problems. So as those of you who might have folks who are kind of hitting that aging period where they need a little bit more help, I think you understand where I'm coming from. But anyway, so that's about it. I don't see any comments. I see I got one person hanging out with me right now. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're brand new, feel free to comment in the chat. I will see it. It may take me a little while. The chat's over there and the data's over there and a little more data over here. So it may take me a minute to notice when someone comments, but I will at some point. So please stick with me, and I will actually definitely at some point see your question, and we'll talk about it live during the show. Yeah, God, anything else? Any other big stuff? We've got about 5 minutes till we're going to start kick things off and start covering the data. I have noticed an interesting uptick in new listings in Morgan Hill, which is a little weird given what I'm seeing in other areas. But and we'll cover that in today's data. So I've been looking at a lot of houses over the last month, And man, there's some beautiful homes, but boy, are those prices up there, making it real difficult for folks who are looking for that starter home. Another interesting thing is a lot of folks who aren't looking for that starter home, right? Folks who are looking for that first time purchase of a home, and they want it to be their forever home. They don't want it to be, well, we'll get something that'll do for now, but instead want to buy today for the stuff they may want to do in a 10 years or 15 years. So I'm seeing a little bit more long-term thinking with a lot of my buyers right now. Interesting, I have a huge number of buyers who are active. And by that, I mean, so I have tools that I provide to my clients that let them search for homes, obviously, right? And of course, they can do it their own on all these other things. But I usually set up an alert for them using the MLS directly. And I've probably got 300 to 500 people. It fluctuates, but I've got usually that number of people with running searches. And I've got maybe about 80 to 100 people who don't just have a search running, but actively ping it every week. Meaning they are in there looking at it, they're rating the listings that they're finding in terms of their level of interest, that kind of thing. And that's up. That's up from last year in terms of the number of buyers who are doing the active looking thing. And boy, something funky is going on with Facebook. It goes like it's lost the stream, and then it comes back, but it comes back 10 minutes ago, and then it jumps to kind of close to where we are. Right now it's a minute and a half off. But we'll see. You know, and here's something I wouldn't mind asking you all. Would you be upset if it no longer was hosted on Facebook? I'm finding Facebook more and more is not really super necessary and also super annoying to stream to. You know, when you've got things like YouTube and you've got LinkedIn and you've got X and these other places, I'm just not 100% sure that Facebook makes 100%. I get, if I ever get weird technical glitches, it's always on Facebook. It's never anywhere else. It looks like it's about to happen again. No. Okay. Well, anyway, and I look fuzzy again. I don't know what's going on. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens when we go to the numbers. We just got a couple of more minutes here. I hope everyone has their favorite coffee. I've been rolling my own now for a while. I know that there was a time when I would always come on with a Pete's or a Starbucks. But I've kind of found my happy place where all of my personal weirdness relating to coffee, because what do? I put in that coconut oil stuff. I put a specific kind of chocolate that's supposed to have all the wonderful things in it. Then a little specific honey that I like. So I have a very weird, specific mocha coffee thing happening, and I like it. It's good. But I'm in a happy place, and it saves me a ton of money. How much is a large coffee now from Starbucks or Pete's? Is it like $8, $9? I'd love to hear from you. What are the things about real estate that have you scratching your head the most? So much of what's super confusing about the world of real estate is intended to be that way, not for your benefit. But yeah, it's a weird thing, and it's an evolving business. So many things have changed, and we've got so many interesting challenges facing the business. One of the things that has been a mantra of real estate agents for like a decade. Yeah, see, look, I'm fuzzy again. How my camera is not focusing. Yeah, it can be sharp. Maybe is this too high? Yeah, that's what it is. The microphone's too high. Well, I'm glad we figured that out. Being fuzzy is not good. All right, folks, here we go. We're going to kick it off. 0 left. Welcome to 10 a.m. on the third Saturday of June of 2026, where we are going to talk about the real estate market stats for May of 2026. for Santa Clara County, San Jose, Morgan Hill, and Gilroy. We do this on the third Saturday of every month. My name's Robert Whitelaw. I'm a licensed real estate broker who's been kicking around in the business since 1988, which is a very, very long time. I can see we've got a couple of people with us on one of the various streaming sites. Feel free to ask any question. If you're a newcomer, welcome. Happy to see you here. I love to take your questions, particularly during the show, so that, let me turn this off so you don't have any background buzzing. Particularly during the show, simply because that way other people benefit from whatever answers or whatever discussions we have on the subject. So I always like seeing those. Someone else has just joined us. Thanks. Welcome to the stream. Feel free to ask your question in the comments. If it takes me a couple of minutes to see that the question is there, please don't leave. I will answer the question. I have 3 different things to look at, so sometimes it takes me a little time to get to that. But let's just jump right in. I mentioned my name's Robert Whitelaw. I'm a licensed real estate broker right here in Santa Clara County, and I've been doing this for a very long time, since 1988. But let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the stats for last month. Now, if we, just so that everyone's aware, I know I try to share this every time, but these are the numbers as of June 8th of 2026. So that's when I ran these numbers. And we are going to check them out right now. Okay. So what we start with is the total homes on the market. Think of this, if the real estate market was a big store, and you could just go in and browse the shelves. This is how many you'd have on the shelves. This represents single-family residential, condos, and townhomes that were available in the month of May of 2025 versus 2026. And we do this as a year-to-year comparison because there is no point in trying to sort of evaluate these sorts of numbers without putting them into context. And the context in this case is the time of year. You're going to see different seasonal influences. We eliminate those seasonal influences by just focusing on month to month. So May of 2025 to May of 2026. Let's just go ahead and jump in here. Now, for you sellers, this number represents your competition. How many other homes are on the market aside from yours? And for you buyers, this is how many homes were available for you to look at. What was the inventory of the housing product that you're shopping for? So we can see here in Santa Clara County, it's up 8% from the same time last year. In May of 2025, it was 2,301. In May of 2026, it's up 2,487. So we can see that the discrepancy from year to year, the increase from year to year, isn't as big as it has been in some of our past months. So that's, I mean, it depends on which side of the aisle you're sitting in terms of whether or not you're a buyer or a seller. Inventory is definitely up, but it's just not up by double digits as we've seen it in some past months. In San Jose, it's up 9%, 1,149. Last year in May of 2025 and May of 2026, it's up literally by 100 homes, 1,249. Morgan Hill, big jump, 105 homes last year in May of 2025, up to 130 homes in May of 2026, and that represents a 24% jump. Really shocking, Gilroy is actually down from last year to the tune of 10%. 115 homes last year, 103 homes this year in May of 2026. So we can see that and we're going to see what the rest of these numbers sort of spell out. But it's interesting to see that Gilroy is actually seeing inventory going down. And when we look at new listings, I think you're going to see where that fuel's coming from primarily, as opposed to are more homes getting bought, right? It's the numbers will tell the story. So let's go ahead and jump into next topic, which is new listings. We can see that in the county overall, no change. And new listing simply means sellers signed a listing agreement with an agent or put their home on the market in that month. So it appeared on the MLS in May of 2025 or 2026. And for all intents and purposes, it was a 0% change from May of 2025 to May of 2026 in Santa Clara County. So very flat. San Jose saw a 2% decrease in the total numbers of new listings or sellers that put their homes on the market during the month. It's down by 2%. It was 917 homes last year in May of 2025. And then in May of 2026, it's down to 899. Morgan Hill, huge jump in May. 67%, 51 homes last year in May of 2025. And then in May of 2026, we saw that go up to 85 homes added to the marketplace. In Gilroy, it's down. So fewer listings, 66 homes listed in May of 2025. In May of 2026, it dropped to 61 homes. That's an 8% drop from the same time last year. Next, let's talk about total number of homes sold. And this is where, particularly for Gilroy, it's going to give us some indication of what's going on. Why is inventory down? Because I think we've actually already seen it. It's the listings are fewer in terms of what's being added to the marketplace. But for homes sold, we can see there's an increase of 8% in the county overall. We sold 1,070 homes in May of 2025. In May of 2026, that number went up to 1,159. San Jose, we saw a 13% increase in the total number of homes sold. 491 homes in May of 2025. In May of 2026, that number went up to 553. Morgan Hill, huge jump in sold homes. 30 homes in May of 2025, 41 homes in May of 2026 for a 37% increase overall over that time. Gilroy, again, down. So clearly we are not seeing the inventory numbers being decreased by sellings, right? Because this number would more or less have to be positive. We saw it's very flat. It's a 3% drop, but there's only 32 homes last year, 31 homes this year. So only one home difference. But even just even if we just call that flat, right? Because remember, the smaller the sample size, the less reliable the data. You got to give it a little bit more elbow room in terms of the expectations on what that number represents. So let's just call that a wash. It's flat from last year. But that absolutely leaves us clearly not selling more homes to reduce inventory, but seeing inventory being dropped because of either homes being removed from the market or fewer folks listing their homes. Now, one thing we like to do at this point is figure out, did we add homes to the marketplace or did we take homes away? And across the board, we sold far fewer homes than we listed. So we added 605 homes overall to the inventory in Santa Clara County. In San Jose, that number was 346 homes. In Morgan Hill, that number was 44 homes. And in Gilroy, that number was 30 homes. So in every case, we did not sell more homes than were listed in the month. We've actually definitely had pasts where that was true, which was a super hot market. Just not happening right now. Now, next, let's take a look at months of inventory, and I want to be clear on what months of inventory is. If we took the May numbers for inventory and sales and froze them, how long would it take for us to have zero inventory with the number of homes we've been selling in that month? And in this case, we can see in Santa Clara County, in May of 2026, that number is at 2.1 months. To calibrate you to what the expectations are nationally, a balanced market is considered 4 to 4.5 months. So anything below 4.5 months is considered a seller's market. Anything above 4.5 months is considered a buyer's market. So we're definitely still in seller's market territory as far as this number indicates. But we've definitely got some communities that are leaning way more into that midway point where it's more of a balanced market. Now, the county overall is actually down by 5%. It was 2.2 months of inventory in May of 2025. In May of 2026, it went down to 2.1. San Jose, no change. Last year, 2.3 months. This year, 2.3 months for May of 2026. Morgan Hill down. It was 3.5 months of inventory in May of 2025, and then in May of 2026, that dropped down to 3.2. And then in Gilroy, 3.6 months of inventory in May of 2025 versus 3.3 months of inventory in May of 2026 for an 8% decline from that data last year. Next, let's talk about the total number of homes pending or contingent. This means that an offer was accepted. So when you make an offer on a home, if the seller accepts it, that becomes typically a contingent offer, meaning you have, as the buyer, contingencies. It could be that your loan has to fund. It could be inspection things that you want to do. It could be a variety of different things that are a contingency on you selling another home that you currently live in. Lots of different things, right? But it's usually contingent. And then it goes pending when all of those contingencies have been released. But this is a great indicator of How many homes have accepted an offer in that month? So that's why we focus on it. We can see right now in Santa Clara County, the number is actually down. Last year in May of 2025, the number stood at 1,169. This year in May of 2026, it's currently at 1,140. That's a 2% drop over the course of that year. In San Jose, 573 homes last year in May of 2025 and May of 2026. 579, so a very minor change, but still up by 1%. Morgan Hill, a 15% jump in the total number of accepted offers. 40 last year in May of 2025 and 46 in May of 2026. Gilroy, again, down, fewer offers accepted. 34 last year, 33 this year. But again, smaller sample size, so we can just simply call that a wash. So performing on par with what we were seeing for that marketplace last year. Next, let's take a look at average original list price. Now, I like this one because it gives us a little bit of insight into the expectations of sellers, because the original list price is just what it sounds like. It's the price that was on the home when it was listed for sale on that very first day. So it tells us what sellers were expecting. And we've had some crazy numbers for this in the past, where expectations had jumped by double digits from the previous year. And I always love doing this and then comparing it to what the actual sales price was for that month to see what the difference is. So let's go ahead and cover it. In Santa Clara County overall, the average original list price, or the average asking price of a home when it first listed, was down 3%. Last year it was $2,020,244. This year it's $1,960,509. San Jose down 0.7, so not even a full percentage point, but last year it was $1,509,679. This year it's $1,499,054. In Morgan Hill, it's down by the biggest chunk in the communities that we track, down 4.9%. Expectations last year were $1,581,334 on average. This year in May of 2026, $1,504,458. $504,458, so a 4.9% drop. Gilroy down 2.4%. Last year, it was $1,499,681. This year, it's $1,463,321. Again, for a 2.4% drop. So if we now compare, let's just kind of keep these numbers in mind, and now we're going to go take a look at what the actual average sales price was in those same regions. In Santa Clara County, we can see that it's actually up 0.5%. Last year, the average sales price was $2,124,686. This year, $2,135,242. In San Jose, it's actually down 3.8%. So $1,620,773 last year in May of 2025 was the average sales price. Average sales price this year in May of 2026, $1,559,303. Morgan Hill up 9.9%. $1,503,600 last year. In May of 2026, that was up to $1,652,698. And in Gilroy, also up 8.6%, $1,214,230 last year, $1,318,315 in May of 2026. So let's compare these two. Where did expectations meet up with reality for us on this? Well, in pretty much every case except for Gilroy, sellers got more than what they were hoping for. If we consider the original list price to be what the hoped for number is, and we compare that to the average sales price, in Santa Clara County overall, sellers got about $174,733 above what they were hoping for. In San Jose, sellers on average got $60,249 over what they were hoping for. In Morgan Hill, on average, sellers got $148,240 above what they were asking for. And in Gilroy, what sellers actually got fell short of expectations by $145,006. So they got less than what they were hoping for if we're comparing it to original list price. Only community right now where that's currently happening. I can see we got a couple of more people who joined the stream. Thanks. I hope that if this is your first time, feel free to ask a question in the comments, and I will get to it as soon as I can. Right now, we're doing the data for the Santa Clara County area. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might bring along. Next, let's take a look at the percent over or under asking price. Something to note, if you're seeing homes selling for over asking price, that implies that at least some substantial number of homes that are selling with multiple offers, because there's no reason for paying over asking price unless you're trying to outbid competition, right? So it's a strong indicator of how much competition is there. As a buyer, how much do I need to be aware of the fact that there's likely going to be someone else making an offer on this house I want to buy? Well, in the county overall, we can see that it's down from last year to the tune of 0.3%. Last year, in May of 2025, homes were selling for 103.6% of asking price. And again, this is not compared to the original asking price. This is compared to whatever the price was at the time the offer was made. So it's a little bit of a look into the psychology of buyers, how much above the asking price at the time. So for instance, if a home had a huge price reduction and then sold, the number this relates to as a percentage is the number that it was reduced to, not the original number. That way we know buyers saw that number and they were willing to make this kind of an offer over asking price. So it dropped 103.3%, which basically comes down to a 3.3% increase on the asking price for folks overall in Santa Clara County. Now in San Jose, it was down 0.4%, 103.2% last year, 102.8% in May of 2026, which again basically boils down to buyers paying 2.8% over asking price on average. In Morgan Hill, down 0.2%. 100.4% in May of 2025 and 100.2% in May of 2026. So right about at asking price is where we're seeing things in Morgan Hill. Now, again, I occasionally mention sample size, right? How many transactions are happening? The county is great numbers for kind of getting a bigger picture because we have thousands of transactions happening or hundreds of transactions. Morgan Hill, much smaller. Remember, the number of homes sold was only 41 in May of 2026. So because of that, I would just call that a wash. I would say, on average, homes are selling for about asking price. And you as a buyer, you should keep that in mind. The odds are you're not going to have competition for the homes that you're making offers on in general. Now, in Gilroy, even the average number is below 100%. So last year it was 100.3% for May of 2025. So on average, buyers were paying 0.3% over asking price. On average in Gilroy today, in May of 2026, that's at 99%. So the average home is selling for 1% below asking price. Overall, that's a 1.3% drop from the same time last year. So if you're, and this is something we've talked about before in terms of communities that I think give buyers the highest level of leverage, I think Gilroy is a great option. And there are some amazing places to live in Gilroy. And it depends on your budget, right? You have homes ranging from $4 million down to something more reasonable, say $800,000, $900,000. I know that doesn't sound very reasonable for a lot of folks, but those are some of the prices. And if you're looking in, say, Northwest Gilroy, places where you'll go to Christopher High School, which is great. My next door neighbor is a former principal of Christopher High School. There was a period of time when I was thinking of moving to Gilroy just so my kids could go to Christopher High School. That's a whole other story, but we ended up doing something else relating to that. I think there are great options there. And if you go to Northeast, then you can get yourself something a little bit more elaborate where you're going to be spending several $1 million for acreage and large lots, those types of things. But that's really it for that. But again, I think that Gilroy represents a great opportunity for folks at almost every price range where you're going to get, it's going to be a less stressful buying experience for these reasons, right? You're not going to have 20 different offers on a house that you're looking at. It gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of coming in with a below asking offer and potentially getting a whole lot more bang for your buck when it comes to the kind of house you can purchase, given how much you might have to spend. Next, let's take a look at days on market. I don't think there's going to be any surprises here, except maybe in Morgan Hill, where we had sort of a weird pivot on how many days it's taking to get a home sold. And one other thing I like to say relating to this data, anytime you see the number over about 15 to 18 days, you know it's a real number that's generated by how much actual interest there was in the home. And I say that because most listings, when they're put onto the market, there'll be a comment in there from the real estate agent saying, please, we're not going to look at any offers until such and such a date. And that date is usually 2 to 2.5 weeks after the day it was listed, because and it's something I do frequently. You want as many eyeballs as possible on the home so that you're doing due diligence for your client and getting them the potentially highest number of offers on the house. So even back when the market was insane, right, and homes were selling super fast, you were still seeing 14 to 18 days on market, because there was this artificial delay where agents would not look at any offers until at least 2 weeks had gone by. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we look through this data. Now, as you can see, in Santa Clara County overall, the total number of days on market is up 21%. So 19 days in May of 2025. In May of 2026, that's up to 23 days. In San Jose, it's up 47%, 17 days in May of 2025, up to 25 days in May of 2026. Morgan Hill down. It was 37 days last year, 29 days this year, for a 22% drop. And Gilroy, we see 24 days in May of 2025 and 33 days in May of 2026 for a 33% increase in the total number of days to get your home sold. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at, now we've finished looking at just month to month, so year over year data. Now we're going to look over our shoulder and see if we can't anticipate where things might be going. So first, total active listings, the blue line. You can see that it's gone up just a little bit between April and May. Last year, April and May flat. Year before that, big jump between April and May. And then after that, relatively flat but declining, relatively flat for a month and declining. My guess is, but one of the big takeaways here is this tends to be part of the peak of this data in terms of total active listings. My guess is that we will see this continue to be flat or decline from here. So in June, it's not going to surprise me at all if we see this sort of flatten out or potentially even make a little bit of a decline. Next, new listings, the green guy. We can see that it was a big drop from April to May. Last year, mild drop from April to May. And we can see that in 2024, it was a big jump from April to May. 2024 was a weird year. This is a little bit more typical. You tend to see homes coming on the market a little bit more dramatically at the beginning of the year. And then as people are getting ready to try to get sold during those summer months, you'll see them come on the market in April and May to take advantage of that. But also note, the peak has already come. Right? The new listings peak is here. The new listings peak consistently tended to be April, with it being delayed a month in 2024. Again, 2024 was a weird year. So my guess is we're going to continue to see this decline, but this is a dramatic decline. Look at this. Between April and May, we saw a huge drop where the drop was far more mild last year. So my guess is this is going to continue to go down, with sellers not wanting to jump into the market at an accelerated rate compared to the same time last year. Next, total number of homes sold, the gray line. We can see that it's sort of flattened out. It looks like it sort of hit a top here in April and stayed flat for May. Last year, it actually declined between April and May. And then in 2024, it actually peaked in May. My guess is that we're going to see this again be the peak of homes sold. From here, I think it declines. Declines or stays flat. If I had money to bet, though, I think I'd be betting on a decline. So, and if that ends up being the sum total of what we get in terms of homes sold for this year, that's not great news for this market in general. Now, pending. Now, one reason why I can also say homes sold, look at this. We peaked here, and peaked here. Our peak happened last month in April. We didn't go up from April to May, whereas we went up from April to May in the last 2 years. Pending is a leading indicator, meaning things that are pending this month tend to be things that sell next month. So my guess is, given that decline in pending, we're going to see a decline in home sales. Almost for sure. I mean, if you look at it, you can see the pendings actually dropped below solds for this month. and it was above it there, and it was above it there. So a complete, whenever these two lines cross, interesting things. So I think that's what we're probably going to see there. Next, let's take a look at list versus sales price. Again, this is another one that's interesting to look at from the standpoint of where do they cross, where, because you're usually seeing market changes at those points. Look at the cross we had here, where suddenly original list price or expectations really dropped. Look at that over the course of 1, 2, 3 months. We covered a little bit here in May, but then look at what happened with actual sales prices. It just jumped and sort of peaked in April, and then did a bit of a decline. Last year, kind of the same, with flat after May, and then a peak in May of 2024. But the two numbers were far closer together in 2024. So in terms of, this is a pretty dramatic divergence between expectations and what homes actually sold for. And we'll see how that plays out. And what's interesting about it to me is that typically it's the other way around. Typically it's the expectations are high and the reality is low. What we're seeing now is reality is high and expectations are low. We'll see how that plays out. It would be a shame to see expectations just jump to the point where it overwhelms what the reality is. But I think it's healthier for the market to be in this position than the other way around, where homes are coming in priced just completely out of whack. Next, let's take a look at percent of asking price and see what the trend has been. We can see overall it's just declining, right, year over year. We're going all the way back to November of 2023 for this, and we can see we sort of peaked in May of 2024 at 109%. So here we are in May, not the peak of 2025, right? The peak was in February, so much earlier in the year. Last year was kind of amazing for this. This year we saw sort of the same thing. Our peak was in March, the first quarter of the year. We saw the big jump. Lots of homes coming on the market in January. And what we're seeing is the reason I think can explain this is the most desirable homes of each category are selling for the most and selling the fastest, and they're attracting multiple buyers. So if you've got a home that's actually absolutely pristine, it's upgraded, it's beautiful, everything is amazing, everybody wants to buy it, so you're getting multiple offers, and that's why we're seeing those numbers jump there as they first come onto the market. But note, all real estate agents love to tell you, oh, May and June, those are the times to get your home sold. You make the most money. Well, that may represent the highest number of sales, but check this out. It is not the highest percent over asking price, right? So maybe that timing doesn't work for your specific situation. Maybe that's a longer conversation you as a seller need to have with your real estate agent, who just kind of spouts whatever's coming out of their source of information saying, oh yeah, activity does not always equal a better deal for you as a seller, right? And I've been finding for many of my clients, going on the market in that first quarter is better than going on the market to try to capture that summer surge. And if you look at these percentages over asking price, that sure does seem to lean into that direction. Next, days on market. I don't think there's any surprise here. A general trend upward. We can see that where we are now is a slight increase from April. Last year, slight increase from April prior to a peak in January. This time we had another peak in January of 2024. So peaking in January, but don't think of that as the bad market. Think of that as a whole bunch of homes that had been sitting around on the market for a long time in January suddenly sold. So this is not an indicator of lower market activity. It's an indicator of higher market activity, which also feeds into my discussion on the last slide about percent over asking price, because it's homes that went into escrow in January and February that would close in March that represented that higher percent over asking price number. All right, let's see here. Next. Now let's take a look at percent of listings with reduced prices for May of 2026. I've been tracking this number for a while. It's one I added to the rundown. I don't know. It's been a few years now, but it's interesting to see how many homes have actually had price reductions. Now think about what we saw with Gilroy as we run through this, right? Last month for Santa Clara County, we saw 25% of homes get a price reduction. This month, in May of 2026, 29%. That's a 21% increase from the same time last year. In San Jose, 27% of homes saw a price reduction last month in April. In May, 31% of homes saw a price reduction, and that's a 16% increase from the same time last year. Morgan Hill, 32% of homes in April had a price reduction. In May, 37% of homes had a price reduction. And that is a whopping 71% increase from the same time last year. Gilroy, 22% of homes in April had a price reduction. 27% in May of 2026 had a price reduction, which is 7% lower than it was a year ago. Now, keep in mind what we're talking about here. We are talking about sellers who decided my home's been on the market too long. It hasn't sold. I'm going to reduce the price to try to entice buyers to take another look at it. I think it's interesting that what we're seeing in Morgan Hill is such a big number. There are definitely some communities in this city that are not calibrated as well to what home values are and are seeing that in some neighborhoods where the feeling of exclusivity is very much enhanced and that they feel like their home should sell for a great deal more. Frankly, these kinds of numbers should annoy you if you're at all concerned about the abilities of your real estate agent. One of the key jobs of a real estate agent is to, through data and reality, calibrate you to what the reality is. And one thing that annoys me is an agent who's willing to take a listing on a home they know won't sell at the price they're listing it. Now, I'll have that conversation with a seller and say, listen, in my professional opinion, it will be nearly impossible for us to get sold at this price. It won't draw the attention that it needs in order to sell at that price. And if they insist, under some certain circumstances, I'll go ahead and list them that with them knowing that my advice is to list lower. But you have to think about this in terms of what am I losing in terms of maintenance fees, right? I'm paying a mortgage, I'm paying the HOA fees or whatever other fees or, taxes and insurance, all these other things. What are my holding costs? Have I already moved and I need to get sold faster? There is no more important time to price your house right than when you've already moved out, it's vacant, and you're trying to get it sold. So the fact that this is happening so predominantly in some communities is something that sellers should be aware of because it's costing you money. All right, just taking a look at the chat, see if we've got any questions. I don't see anything. I don't see any new viewers, although some numbers could have been replaced by other people. So welcome to the stream if you're new. We have now reached the end of the data. We are going to transition over to chatting about the latest news. I like to pause here for folks so that if we've got any questions, we can hit them. It's also a good time to refill on a little caffeine. It looks like Facebook has settled and calmed down because I haven't seen any other weird glitches. But I thought we'd just go through some of the latest news. Not a whole lot of articles this time. Just a few things I thought were interesting. Zillow's May market report, the housing recovery is back on pause. New listings and sales fall behind 2025 as mortgage rates rise past 6.5%. Interest rates have been between 6 and 6.5% for quite a while. When I talk to buyers, things that are holding them back, while interest rates are a part of it, it doesn't tend to be the primary thing. The primary thing is just the core cost. So I'm not sure that concerns over mortgage rates being where they are is something that would account for this. They tell you what the typical U.S. home value is. 368,000 home value index rose 0.6% month over month in May. 1.36 million homes for sale nationwide in May. Active inventory was 1% higher than the year earlier. And our inventory was up 8%. So our inventory is, compared to the previous year, higher than the national average, according to this. But I just thought I'd point that out. Sometimes I think they grab onto things that aren't necessarily it. In fact, you know what? While we're there, let's talk about interest rates. And if we take the average sales price in Santa Clara County, which is 2.1, let's look at it. Look at 2.1. $2.1 million. Okay. Assuming you've got excellent credit, single family home, two things to notice here. A, fees. Look at these fees, $13,000. That's crazy. 6.029, 6.153, 6.198, 6.5 for low fees, lower fees. 6.75 for no fees. And also notice how few options we have. Now, that's actually a pretty good number of options, but when we bring it, let's go ahead and take a look at what we would get if we were looking at a price closer to what is going on in Morgan Hill, which is 1.6. And two things to notice. One, fees are lower, except for these guys, tend to be lower. Obviously, the fees are to get you a lower rate. But when we get down to less expensive fees, we're seeing options here we didn't see before in terms of cost. So that's, but we're seeing things ranging from 6 to 6.75, zero fees at 6.75. So the fee is wrapped into the interest rate rather than being an upfront cost. So, and of course, you can do some math to figure out if that makes sense for you to do. But that's where interest rates currently sit. If we look historically at where they've been going, I mean, this is the 30-year. This is where it's been. This is April 9th of 2026. It just isn't. There's not enough of a swing here to make that headline from Zillow make sense to me. If you feel differently, feel free to chime in. But I don't see that as being the thing. I think there's other general uncertainty going on that explains it, rather than anything relating to interest rates. All right. So next, let's look at the rates have been held where they are. I know that there are folks promoting a reduction. The Federal Reserve left the federal funds rate unchanged at a range of 3.5 to 3.75 by an unanimous 12-0 vote. Weekly housing, just something I like to look at. It sort of gives us a way to compare to the national. Median list price, let's see, original list price. Ours was down 3%, nationally down 2%. New listings down 0.3%, us down 0%. About the same if we're looking at county numbers. Total active listings up 5.5% nationally. Our total active listings is up 8%. And time on market is 3 days slower. But let's see. Yeah, no big standout. No big standout data there. The hottest housing markets, I always love to look at this list because how many of them are going to be in California? And that's typically 0. It's almost all East Coast. Massachusetts, there's Wisconsin, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Michigan, Wisconsin. But one reason I like to point this out also is if you're looking to invest and you're not concerned about distance, you're going to have it be managed maybe by a local property manager. I think these are great lists to start at. This should be a starting point. This should absolutely not be, I'm going to buy because it's at the top of this list. But this might be a community or an area that you look at to decide if there's something worth your time. You'd obviously want to figure out, why is it hot? What makes it hot? What is the criteria they use to define hot? Let's see. And I always prefer when at the end they have this is our methodology. This is how we define hot. And frequently the Association of Realtors doesn't do that. Okay, so that's it for articles. If you've got any questions, feel free to chime in. Don't see anything in the chat. Now it's the audacious plug of my own stuff. One of the tools that I offer to my clients is a free home value tool. And this is great if you input the address of your home and just hit check. It's going to give you the number. I don't ask for any stuff. However, if you want a monthly update to that number, plus the home equity tool, the home purchase options tool, the refinance calculator, the mortgage summary, the other options that you might be able to use with your equity, the net worth, the home renting tool where you can figure out, okay, how much could I charge if I did it as a vacation rental or if I did it as a month to month. So you can run all these numbers. And if it ever comes up that you should refinance, you can see here all of these numbers are red, but if it was a good time, and if you've given it the information about your current loan, as soon as options are available to you that would mean you would save money, these turn green. And there's a link directly to a local lender that I've partnered with for you to start the process of looking at whether or not you really want to pull the trigger on refinancing your home. So this is a great tool. It is basically giving you every month something I strongly suggest my clients do at least once a year. So this all happens for you automatically, arrives in your inbox. You can unsubscribe at any time. I don't put a lot of strings on this, but for those of you who've been working with me before or have worked with me over the years, you know I do a full tech review of all the services I provide to my clients every year. These guys have survived. I think this is the 4th year, maybe the 5th, which is unheard of. Typically, more sexy stuff comes along that does it better, but HomeBot has been the best I've seen. And I invest an awful lot of time in evaluating new tools because I'm a little bit of a tech geek when it comes to that stuff. So anyway. All right, so there's that. Nothing else really. I thought if anyone had any questions about some specific markets, we could explore those, but I'm not seeing that. We can see that market trends so far this month in Morgan Hill, for instance, closed sales in April 29, median sales price 1.4 million, days on market 8. Wow, that's an interesting drop. But they're also, I'm sure this is just single family. Yeah, it's single family. It's not including condos and townhomes. New listings, increased number of listings in April. Last month there was 57, fewer this month, 47. Increased number of days on market, increased number of closed sales, good, increased median sales price, average list price, percent of list price received, asking price down from 102% last month, and average price per square foot is down to 705 versus 716. So that's it, folks. Again, if you'd like to reach out, you can find me at soldbyrobert.com. Again, that's where this tool I was just mentioning is. You can even do it just from the front page if you go right to soldbyrobert.com and just enter your address right there. And it'll give you the quick and dirty estimated value of your home. But that is it for this month. Again, feel free to reach out, do it for the site. And I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I appreciate you spending your valuable time with me. And of course, I look forward to seeing you all next month for the Coffee and Real Estate Live Chat on the 3rd Saturday of July.